Bethesda have just released a trailer for Starfield, giving us our first new look at their epic science fiction role-playing game, and if you're like me, you're probably already wondering what subtle hints and clues they've included in the trailer. If so, then you're in the right place, because today we're going to be taking a super detailed and close look at almost every single shot in the trailer to dissect and break down every clue about the game that we can find. So with that, let's jump right in. So from the first screen, the first title screen, we see alpha in-game footage, Creation Engine 2. The only reason why I think this is noteworthy is because this is in-engine, it's not pre-rendered or CGI footage the way some people have been saying, and the overhauls to the Creation Engine are apparently significant enough that they're now calling it the Creation Engine 2. This is important because Bethesda has been using the same game engine for a long time, and they've been saying that they would need to overhaul it for the next Elder Scrolls game and their other future titles, so the fact that they're calling it Creation Engine 2 is a good sign. We then hear a character over a radio saying, "Constellation Starship Frontier, we have you on scanners." This is important because as we go through the rest of this breakdown, we're going to find out why Constellation and Frontier are actually really important terms to remember. And then just a little bit after that, we see what looks like a cargo hold on a ship. And in this shot, we see in the far left corner, there is a red medical pack. There's lots of nondescript packages and containers that are sort of strapped into the cargo hold. There are two tanks in the back that are strapped to the wall. One says oxygen tank, and the other says sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is used for many purposes, including to make sulfuric acid, which is another multi-purpose substance. So since those two things are so multi-purpose, I think that's just sort of generic science fiction supplies that they might need for whatever expeditions they're on. A person, the main character of this trailer, in a spacesuit comes into view and they go up the ladder. There is a digital display surface with a series of controls as well as some random objects that are strewn on top of it. There's a warning on the display that says no magnetized objects on the display, and there are several different buttons on the control console. The main series of controls in the middle has some text that is hard to read, but I think it says Astro Guidance Reference, and below that is a list of data that I can't quite make out. Next to that, there's an ETA for something, and it reads 22 minutes and 3 seconds. Next to that, there is a prominent dial that also displays something about lunar cycles, which is consistent with the UI we saw in a leaked screenshot some while back. And to the right of that, there are 4 rows of buttons, each with 3 buttons. The top row has Layer 0, CLR, presumably for clear, and Catalog. The second row has Layer 1, a button that says Dark, and a button that says Simulate. The third row has a button that says Layer 2, a button that says Log, and a button that says Diagnostic. And the fourth row has a Layer 3 button, a button that looks like it just has a red line through it, or maybe it's red text and I can't make it out against the red background of the button itself, and a button that says Commit, but it's spelled C-O-M-I-T instead of C-O-M-M-I-T. It's either an intentional misspelling of the word commit, or maybe a subtle clue to something else. One thing that you can find if you search online for commit, which I think maybe is meant to be pronounced comet, is that it was the first string processing language developed on the IBM 700 and 7000 series computers by collaborators at MIT, and it led to the development of other computer languages which were used in analyzing linguistics, machine language, and even artificial intelligence. Now, maybe that's me reading too much into it, but for what it's worth, that is one possible angle of speculation. You can sort of make out some text on the Astro Guidance display itself, but not much of it is clear enough to read, although on the right corner you can make out Chart Config, and underneath that, Wave Field or Wave FLD display for what that's worth. And as the camera starts to pan slowly across the scene, we can see more of the display. Like at the bottom of the display, we see Status Landed and what looks to be GFLA Spooled. I don't know what GFLA could mean, but spooled to me makes me think of a faster than light drive or some sort of propulsion system. Pure speculation, but that's what came to mind for me. And of course, on the top of the display, there's a coffee cup that says Nova Galactic, maybe an SSD or a tablet of some kind, a pen and paper, and a pack or a container of some kind. In the next shot, there's a flight manual from none other than Nova Galactic, and it says, Training Protocols and Advanced Orbital Telemetry Revision 114 on the cover. At the top it says Space Flight Center, and there's also an MRE bag with a brand name that looks to be Chunks, and it's apparently a baked potato meal. There are other items on the table that I'm assuming are mainly food related, like other MREs and the like. But then the main character we saw earlier comes into frame and they put down what appears to be a rifle, a weapon, and we get a good look at this gun, and it has a few interesting things on it. It says combat tech as one word in several places, which I assume is the manufacturer of the weapon, establishing another fictional in-game brand. It also has a prominent ammo counter display in yellow on the top of the rifle. Interestingly enough, it says ammo left, and then it has in big numbers 24, but under that, it looks like it also says 100 rounds. But it's actually got a slash in there, so it's actually saying 24 out of 100 rounds left, with a blinking safety on indicator also on right next to it, which is really cool if that ends up being an immersive in-game ammo counter where we don't have to necessarily rely on HUD elements to tell us how many rounds we have left. That would be absolutely amazing. Other games like Halo and Star Citizen have done this before in the past, but I just always kind of dig it when they have those immersive HUD elements built into the world. While this shot is happening, a voiceover is playing and plays over the next few shots, but essentially the entire voiceover is, they say that the wonder is not that the field of stars is so vast, but that we have measured it. You're part of Constellation now, part of our family. What you found, it's the key to unlocking everything. This is all we've been working towards. We've come to the beginning of humanity's final journey. Now, that's actually really interesting when you take that voiceover in combination with the other images that we're seeing, saying that you're a part of Constellation now. Constellation is obviously a huge theme in this trailer. We hear it, we see it multiple times. And this is important because I'm not sure that Constellation is necessarily the name of a ship, although it could be. It seems like it's the name of an organization or maybe a fleet of ships or an association of some sort. Initially, I thought that maybe Constellation was the ship, the ship of the series, similar to the Normandy and Mass Effect. But if we take that kind of more in combination with what we saw earlier of that ship and what we heard earlier, I don't think that's the case. I think the ship that we are seeing in this trailer is actually called Frontier. In fact, it's almost certain because we're going to see it painted onto the side of the ship later on. And that earlier quote from that character who is talking over the radio says, "Constellation Starship Frontier, we have you on scanners." So it seems like Frontier is the ship that we're seeing. And it's a part of, it is a Constellation starship, meaning that it's part of Constellation, whatever that is. And in the next shot, we see there is a shelf with several items on it, one of the most prominent of which is a large book titled The Constellation Spacefarer's Guide, and what looks to be either a ship or a space station on the cover. If this book is the guide to Constellation, it would stand to reason that that is a picture of either a ship or maybe a space station. But it's definitely not the ship that we see later on in this trailer taking off. But I digress, there's even more on this shelf that's super interesting, like a helmet that has a sticker on it reading "Don't Use" written in marker. The helmet has a hole through it that could be a bullet hole, honestly, or maybe damage from a piece of small debris that hit this person's helmet on a spacewalk or something like that. But it's clearly kept there as a reminder of something. Next to that, there's a small white box that has a logo of 8 white stars in a formation of a triangle against a dark blue background with a planet or moon at the bottom. This logo or this patch is seen elsewhere in the trailer, so maybe this is the Constellation icon or logo. On the box, it says Property of Constellation contains Chronomark Life Pack Interlink LPV 6.0. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because a chronomark is obviously a kind of watch. If you're not familiar, it's basically like a fancy watch. And if we once again reference the leaked images that we had seen before, keeping track of orbits and lunar phases seems like it's going to be a thing in the game. So maybe this is some sort of wrist-worn device like a watch that helps with that. And then Life Pack Interlink, those are both kind of generic terms. I mean, Interlink would obviously suggest some kind of communication or network device. And Life Pack, while this is a little bit of a stretch, there are companies that make products called Life Pack or something similar that are essentially heart monitors / defibrillators. And I'm thinking that whatever this is in this white case, this Chronomark Life Pack Interlink, is maybe the equivalent of the Pip-Boy in Fallout. Maybe it's a networked communication device that also monitors and regulates vitals, and it tracks orbits and lunar phases in some way. Maybe that's a stretch to some, but honestly, I get the feeling that that's exactly what this is. Some sort of device. What it's called exactly, we're not sure, but some sort of device that's going to be wrist-worn, and it's going to play a big role in gameplay and in story. And lastly on the shelf are 2 books, one of which is Sailing Around the World Alone by Captain Joshua Slocum, which is a book published in the year 1900 by, not surprisingly, a man who sailed around the world in a one-man sloop. And the other is Omega, The Last Days of the World, written by Camille Flammarion, and that was published in 1894. And it was a science fiction novel concerned with a comet possibly hitting Earth and the implications of the end of the world. Both of these are super interesting nods to science fiction and probably deserve their own video to break down what the potential implications could be. Maybe they're just neat references, but if Bethesda is actually trying to give hints about what's going to happen in Starfield, this could end up being super interesting down the line. In the next shot, there appears to be what is maybe an open locker door that has a pane of glass where we can see through, and we can see the main character from this trailer again, but it also has a lot of stuff written down on it in dry erase marker. The first note at the top of the glass says best settings, and then it has ENG, SHD, and GRV. I'm assuming that this represents engines, shields, and gravitation or gravity. And next to engines, it has 323. Next to shields, it has 631 and a question mark. And then next to gravity, it has 422. Under that, it says upgrade reactor with a question mark. And the second note says, reminder, Cydonia security does not have a sense of humor. The third note says, Vasco, we're out of tranquility. Do not get decaf. I think Tranquility is another in-game, in-universe brand that they're trying to set up, which is awesome. I love stuff like that. And to the right of this, there are tons of stickers and patches and some photographs and posters and sketches, and let me tell you, there's a lot to break down here. So at the top, we see that there are some pictures of what look to be a mech, maybe like a drivable mech, or maybe it's a robot, a drone, a worker robot of some sort. Either way, we see a glimpse of this robot or mech vehicle later on as well. We see that one of the stickers says The Livingstone Project, another one says Ferrer 4 Expedition, another one says New Age Resolution, there's another one that says The 10th Planet. There's one that just says Ranger, and it's a very prominent bronze style to this one, maybe a badge of some sort. And another one that just says Astrodynamics. The 2 stickers at the top, closest to the mech photos, are the hardest to make out. I think the blue and white one that looks like it has a snake biting down on a moon or a planet says New Discoveries Expedition. But the blue and bronze one with the shuttle on it, it's just too small and I can't make out any words on that one. Then there's a poster with a woman playing the violin, and it has the name Alyssa and the beginning of a last name that starts with D-E-M-I. And then there are a few more words underneath that, but we can't quite see what they are. Maybe Aquila City. It looks like it could be AK, maybe an I, and then LA, so Aquila City. And below that, the letters LI in big lettering, so I'm assuming that that word is live. So maybe it's Alyssa Demi something rather, and she's playing at Aquila City, something rather live. Maybe it's not super important, but again, they're adding more to the depth of the world building. And finally, what is maybe the most significant thing about this shot, and maybe the most significant thing about the entire trailer, is that there are 2 pages of sketches and notes taped to this locker that seem to be describing some sort of device that this exploration expedition has found. It's very hard to make out what's written on the bottom page, even zoomed in and sharpened, and it's hard to read, but it's some sort of sketched diagram of pieces of this device that they found. On the top page, however, we get a much closer look. As soon as the shot changes, it goes to a zoomed in look at this top page so we can see some of what it says. And this page, let me just tell you, is very, very interesting. Maybe the biggest clue in this entire trailer is this page right here. So I'm going to start with what's at the bottom of the page where it says, "We have so far been unable to tell what happens in the center." And to the left of that, it has 3 images drawn, and next to the 3 images, it says rotating rings, 2 rings, 3 rings. And naturally, each of the sketched images shows just that. So to me, this is very clearly denoting that this is a discovered device. This is something that has been uncovered and found, not something that humans have built. This is a device of unknown origins that is mysterious, and this happens to be shown at the exact moment when the voiceover is saying, "What you found, it's the key to unlocking everything." That makes it clear as day to me that Starfield is going to be, at least in part, about discovering the nature and the purpose of this strange device that has been discovered. On the top half of the page, there is another more detailed, comprehensive diagram of the device, and it has 3 bullet points of description that correspond to 3 points on the smaller image. It looks like it's points A, B, and C, so point A is central chamber, point B looks like it says large outer walls, and point C looks like it says something like rough steps and other shapes. That's what I was able to make out, at least. If anyone can see something different, please let me know. But again, it all supports the theory that this is a team of scientists or explorers trying to figure out what this thing is. Oh, and next to the 3 bullet points image is another note that says multiple stories tall. So this thing is really big, whatever it is. And finally, in the right corner of this page is a further dissection of the device into 6 constituent parts, labeled alpha, beta, chi, delta, epsilon, and rho, which are just letters from the Greek alphabet, basically the same thing as labeling something A, B, C, D, E, and R. No idea why it skips to R or why it even uses the Greek alphabet, but it labels the different pieces of this device nonetheless. Next to this breakdown is a note of analysis that is really hard to read in full, but I can at least make out some words. It looks like Delta V constellation, or Delta versus constellation maybe, and then the next word is continues. So Delta V constellation continues over the nature, and it looks like either a plus sign or an and sign, so over the nature and the patterns. And then it's maybe center design or crater design, I can't quite make it out. Seems intentional, but the disconnected elements suggest separate meaning. So altogether, that should read something like Delta versus constellation continues over the nature and the patterns of the center design, seems intentional, but the disconnected elements suggest separate meaning. Now, we don't know exactly what that all means, but again, while it's hard to make out exactly what it says, it's clear that whatever this is, there's debate over what it does or how it was designed. So this page overall is really interesting and really telling. I think honestly it might be the most concrete info we have gotten about the plot and setting of Starfield, and it's super exciting to see the direction that they're going in with this mysterious device of unknown origin. But moving right along, we see the same character stepping onto the flight deck of a ship and switching it on. Then we see a ship from the exterior that appears to be called the Frontier, which was referenced in some of the voiceover earlier, as the name is emblazoned on the side of the hull. You can also just see one of those either mechs or robots that we saw in the photos earlier walking around the exterior of the ship. We then see the inside of the ship again, and there is so much to call out here in terms of displays and readouts and switches and controls that I'm not even going to go through it button by button or display by display. That would take forever, and I will say that I have carefully looked over every button and screen and display in the shot, and I don't see anything super revealing or telling from any of it. It basically just looks like really cool, naturalistic, detailed sci-fi space controls, which is awesome. One thing that everyone is freaking out about from this shot is this. What looks like scratches on the side of the console? Yeah, well, what some hardcore fans in the Elder Scrolls community have figured out, very quickly might I add, is that these scratches actually look just like a map of the Iliac Bay in the Elder Scrolls series. The Iliac Bay has long been rumored and speculated to be the location for the next Elder Scrolls game, and everyone is now taking this as confirmation of that and an Easter egg for the Elder Scrolls 6. All I can say is props to Reddit user WTF who posted this on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit not long after the trailer was posted. In another shot, we see readouts for gravity, power, and life support. We then see the patch or logo that I talked about earlier with the stars in a triangle formation, which I believe is the logo for Constellation. We see another shot of the Frontier from the outside, and then we see that mech, or maybe it's actually just a robot that we talked about earlier, but either way, we see it up close and it looks pretty cool. Not sure if that will be combat capable or more of a worker robot or what it is, but there you have it. We see this cargo bay door closing, which I believe is where we saw the character entering in before, earlier in the trailer. We see the main character for the first time up close. We can see their face through the helmet visor. We get a great close-up and we can see the detail on their face. Looks not too bad, honestly. It looks like maybe a slight upgrade graphics-wise from Fallout 4, which admittedly was not the best-looking game, but then again, if you're like me, you don't play Bethesda games for the graphics to begin with. And then as we hear a voice over the radio saying, "Good luck, Constellation, you are go for launch," we see a readout that is actually this game's release date. And honestly, I just thought that was a really cool way to do the release date reveal. 11/11/22, still more than a year out, which I know is going to be disappointing for some people, but honestly, there's a ton of other great games to play until then. I'm just happy that we now finally have an official confirmed release date. So there we have it, a total detailed breakdown of this trailer. I thought that this would be a really quick, fast video initially, just knock it out in a few minutes, but as I started to dissect, there were actually a few good things to unpack from this trailer that I'm excited about, seeing the direction, the hints about what the potential plot and stakes of this story could be, and I gotta tell you, I'm way more excited than I was before I actually started doing the trailer breakdown. So quite frankly, I hope you feel the same after having watched this video. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button, and if you'd like to be informed of all future videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification icon. I have been primarily focused on Mass Effect very recently, generally on BioWare games, but I've also covered Elder Scrolls content in the past. I love Cyberpunk and Star Citizen, and I love science fiction generally, so more Starfield could be showing up on the channel in the future. I hope that you'll stick around for that, but as always, thanks for watching, and thank you for listening.